story. Our first story, it's a brutal story. The brutal murder of Jessie Davis and her killer, her former boyfriend, Ohio cop Bobby Cutts Jr., who's getting sentenced today. You know, we watch this, we grapple with it. The bottom line question, how do you kill your pregnant girlfriend and unborn child and leave your 2-year-old son without a mom? Well, we watch the justice system at work. We want to know, how are you going to deal with this guy? Well, a judge today handed him a sentence of life in prison. He will not be eligible for parole for 57 years, meaning the guy's going to be 87 by the time he can get out. Now, I'm not a big death penalty fan, but if it's on the table, if there's anyone that I think should be a candidate, it's Bobby Cutts Jr. Well, here's what the family of Jessie Davis had to say. Again, heartbroken after her death, still the wounds so raw after the death of a daughter and a sister.
I sat with Blake for hours on that porch holding him while he cried and asked for his mother. And I knew that there was no comforting him because she wasn't coming back. I don't believe that you're sorry for what you did. I believe that you are sorry that you got caught up in all of your lies. You have lied to more people than I can even count. I don't know that you would know the truth. And it disgusts me that you sit there and you don't care. If you cared, you would have told the truth. You would not have let my sister's body and my niece's body lay there in that field and rot so that we could not even have an open casket to look at her one more time. Do you know what that feels like?
Sentencing verdict in the aggravated.
You watch this, and you'd have to be a stone not to get choked up a little bit as you hear the family of Jessie Davis react to this verdict. I know one of the family members said this is not enough, and you know, I agree with that. Joining us to talk about this is attorney Steve Greenberg. Steve, good to see you again. Again, I'm not the big death penalty guy, but if it's on the table, why doesn't a Bobby Cutts Jr. get the death penalty in this case?
Not getting the death penalty doesn't mean he's going to get off so easy, Mike.
No, I know.
He's going to, as you said, 87. He'll be 87 before he's eligible for parole. Some jurors, and the jurors in this case may have felt this way, that being in prison is worse than the death penalty. You know, people who get the death penalty, they get some finality if the death penalty is ever imposed. People who don't get the death penalty get held in the worst of conditions in a prison, in the smallest of cells, usually in solitary confinement, usually locked up 23 to 24 hours a day. They get few, if any, privileges. Can you imagine sitting there for the next 57 years, every day thinking and looking at those walls, having to think about what you've done? That may be why the jury in this case didn't recommend the death penalty.
No, and again, just to make clear, I'm not a big death penalty proponent, but you wonder in this case, why doesn't he get the worst possible punishment, which would have been the death penalty? You know, you just gave us the facts, Steve. Give us your take. Were you surprised at all by this verdict?
I was surprised by the original verdict because when they found him guilty of killing a young lady, they sort of bought some of his argument that he, in fact, maybe accidentally killed her or he didn't really mean to kill her, which meant he wasn't eligible for death on that aspect of the case. The death only involved the unborn child. And the whole outcome here, who kills their own girlfriend? Who kills their own unborn child? There has to be something wrong with anybody who did that. On the other hand, you've got a police officer. He did do some good things in his life. The whole dynamics of it are just very strange. And when you're sitting there as a juror, I've never been a juror, obviously, because of the nature of my work, but when you're sitting there as one human having to judge to take the life of another human, that's got to be a difficult process.
No, I agree with you, but I think I'm still in the place in that first question is, how do you take your pregnant girlfriend's life knowing she's pregnant with your child and you're going to leave your 2-year-old son without a mom? Again, Steve Greenberg, we appreciate your time, your insights. We'll talk to you again a little bit later about another very interesting story. So we know you'll stick around for that. All right, let's change things up.